Think you know which way it's going to go? You should head on over to Sports Interaction. When the puck drops, Sports Interaction has you covered.
Live in play.
Live in play.
But pregame.
Pregame, live in play are one of their many prop bets. I wasn't ready.
On all major sports and prop bets. Wanna bet? SportsInteraction.com/STPN. 19 plus, please play responsibly. I'm keeping them on their toes.
For hockey history, they have to win the cup. He has to win a cup in his career.
Mm-hmm. Connor McDavid, you mean?
Yes. For the institution of the sport.
This is the time.
Remember, I always felt like a little bit of stress thinking about Ovechkin. Oh my God, he's just going to retire with no cup. I remember after they lost in 2017 thinking, that's it. He blew his best chance. Is he going to go somewhere else? And then, of course, they win it the next year. But what are the Oilers going to do, man? Oh, sorry. I know I made that Avalanche conversation into an Oilers conversation.
No, I think that's fair.
For as much as we talk about, hey, hockey's not basketball in terms of the best players in the game can affect the game in an individual way like they can in other sports. There's a long history of the best players in the sports having Stanley Cups.
He's automatic. He's a cheat code.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I don't know, Jesse. I know that there is that, but I do feel like that's overblown.
Yes, yeah. I think if you look back on the NHL, the greatest players have the championships to back it up, just like they do in other sports. And Connor McDavid, I think we're all assuming he's going to get into that upper echelon of the 15, the top 10 greatest players to ever play in the National Hockey League. And a cup's got to come with that eventually.
It comes down to numbers. It's very funny because I'm getting to a point where players began and ended their careers while I was covering hockey. So I get to sound like an old man and go, yes, their numbers, illustrate this and that and that. This is the OV Crosby conversation. By the numbers, I mean, you could make an argument that OV's had a better career. By watching them and knowing the context of their entire careers, I would say Sidney Crosby has had a better career. I think numerically, statistically, at the end of his career, McDavid's offensive numbers will eat Crosby's alive.
Yes.
He's well on pace to crush all of that.
Crush. Ovechkin, too. Not in terms of goals, but in terms of points.
Total points, sure.
He'll eat him alive. Get him a cup. Get him one. You need one.
No, that's the example is perfect because you look at Ovechkin and Crosby, and Ovechkin's probably going to finish his career with more points than Crosby. I believe they're almost identical right now.
They're close.
They're right there, 1-1. He's probably going to play longer. But if you've lived through it, you know Crosby's concussion seasons. You know what Crosby did in the playoffs to really just drag the Penguins with Malkin and Letang and Murray and Fleury and their core there to the Stanley Cups. And you know how important Crosby's career has been. And you throw in the Team Canada stuff. The career that when you're comparing Ovi and Crosby, it's Crosby won. But if you look at the raw stats in 50 years, you'd be like, Ovechkin had so many more goals. How dare you? You needed to be there.
Dude, he broke the record for most road goals, and he's got at least 4 full seasons left. That's absurd.
You needed to be there to see that. And for McDavid, the raw stats are going to be there. He's going to put up more numbers than anybody of this era. But he needs to win something here.
You got to look too about what the Penguins have endured in the playoffs. Like some of the teams they had to go through. Like back
Washington over and over again.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, yeah, Washington for sure, but it's hard to imagine this. But the Philadelphia Flyers used to be good and used to be scary. And those teams in the about a decade ago with Simmons and Giroux and Voracek and all those guys that were when they were younger and they were playing amazing hockey, and Simon, I think that goes back to like Simon Gagne and some of those guys too.
It does.
They were a spectacularly led and made hockey team, and there's no reason that team shouldn't have won a cup.
That 2012 series was so stupid.
It was crazy, and I think, Jesse, I think you're absolutely right. You have to be there and see it. I do want to see, I want to see McDavid win a cup, but this, everything needs to kind of come together for the Oilers. Like you can't sit here, and this is the problem that I have with the argument is, McDavid and Draisaitl are great players, and great players win cups, right?
Yes.
We agree.
Yes.
The problem is, of all the great players I've seen in any sport, I have rarely seen an organization do less to surround their great players with greatness or go about it in worse ways than the Oilers have. And I'm talking about, I'm not even just talking about the current era, like the previous GM set them back 3 or 4 years. Like, what was his name? The glasses. Peter Chiarelli. Terrible decisions. I mean, think about how good you like McDavid Draisaitl. Imagine how good McDavid Hall in his prime would have been.
Now, here's something
like really. I mean, they had 40 games together, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, here's something that could be pretty interesting. We all agree Jack Campbell's not this bad, right?
I don't know if I do.
We'll see.
He's not an 870 goalie.
We all said that about Martin Jones, and then he turned out to be an 870 goalie.
If he throws together,
Martin Jones is back, by the way.
I know.
He's having a great time.
It's the craziest part.
Yeah.
If he throws together like a month of 900 goaltending, 900,
the Oilers are fine.
They go all the way up to the top of the division.
It for the Oilers though, it's also some of the defense. Like
it's
that's
horrendous.
A lot.
Horrendous.
This is what I'm talking about.
A lot of the defensive structure needs to fix, and it might be just getting better defensemen.
Nurse is he's not right. He's not right. I saw in that Montreal game. Although he did have a goal, and it was a really fun one. And then did you see his celly?
No, what was Stelly?
He just fell down.
Oh yeah,
he fell down, but he was like laughing at himself for falling down before he even hit the ice. It was great.
That's a good Stelly.
Yeah.
I will hear the argument too about McDavid's leadership abilities because we've heard enough, we've read enough that some people question it. In that
body language stuff,
just in the way that he can push a team to victory, and we've seen in other sports and in hockey, you know, if you're the best player on the team, if you're the best player in the league, you got to do a little GMing yourself as well. You're pushing upper management. You're managing up. I think that's an Adam Wild term. When you're managing up your bosses, and like if McDavid really has this drive to get a cup, you know, maybe there's some onus on him to push management to get the players that he needs to win the cup in Edmonton, or it's on him to go to a better situation to get the players he needs to win a cup.
I'd
listen to that.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was the first real NHL player who, like, you know what Kawhi did when he left Toronto. He was basically saying between Toronto and LA, like, either of you, if you want me, you're gonna have to get Paul George. Right now, that worked out to be terrible. And then like LeBron did it. LeBron did it in Cleveland. He did it obviously in Miami. He did it in Cleveland. It worked. Yeah, and then he's done it in LA, and it's been terrible. La GM.
Yeah.
I think that. I think Jesse, that's a really good point, and perhaps that goes back to the hockey ethos of you don't want to step out of line, but at a certain point, he's going to have to take control of not just the team, which he takes control of the ice. No one's going to say that. I don't know whether Connor McDavid gets an extra goal or two out of players because he inspires them with his leadership, or he doesn't. I don't know one way or the other, but what I do know is that Connor McDavid has not taken control of the franchise.
Interesting.
And if he takes control of the franchise, of the brand, Gretzky did this.
Well,
Gretzky did this in LA. He said, get rid of Luke Robitaille. I want Yari Curry. I'm honest. Absolutely. Gretzky and Robitaille didn't get along.
This was a criticism of Sidney Crosby.
I was going to say the complete opposite.
Well, it was a criticism of him when he was like a literal child.
He won like 3 years in, right? Like,
every,
21.
You have to be a fool to not think that every big extension doesn't go through Sidney Crosby's ears before it happens.
Apparently,
maybe to their detriment now.
He and Letang got the Malkin deal done. Apparently, if reports are to be believed,
which is hilarious because if I remember correctly, insiders called it. They're like, he'll call him, and
CJ said that.
Yeah.
He's like, it'll be fine. He's like, people get mad, and then they come back to the negotiation.
Gino,
but your point about him as a child not making those decisions, and then as an adult, and they win the cups, he makes those decisions.
I think where a lot of this comes from with McDavid is, you know, every time the Oilers get scored on, what do you see?
McDavid's face.
Yeah, the camera goes straight to sulking silence.
I feel bad for him, though, because I wouldn't be happy. I'm not going to be like, great, when they score on me.
You're not...
Like,
no, and I'm
so
not
unfair
asking
to
him to be Ted Lasso and just point at the believe sign every time the Oilers get scored on.
Yeah.
But, and, you know, I don't know what he says in the locker room, but he's sort of a lead by example guy.
If McDavid walked in to Ken Holland's office and said, I want you to do this, you know that Ken Holland would have to do it. Because what's implied in that, he doesn't need to say it, is or else.
I'd love to know how much of a hand he had in the Lucic deal.
Like getting him out of town?
Getting him in.
He was a kid. I don't think he had any hand in that. That was a Chiarelli.
It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't
because
think
it was
so.
Chiarelli was the Boston GM.
Chiarelli.
Absolutely.
Well, no. So there's the pre-existing relationship there with Chiarelli and Lucic. So I just wonder. And then the other one I wonder about is Duncan Keith. Because there's a pre-existing Hockey Canada relationship with Ken Holland and Duncan Keith. But how much of it is we need a goddamn defenseman?
Now, man, I don't think Connor McDavid's done that. I honestly don't. And it's not because like I am not criticizing him for that. I understand why you're like, can I just play fucking hockey and let the managers figure this out? It is their job. Unfortunately, Connor, you can't. You need to go to ownership. You need to go to the GM and be like, okay, now it all goes through me. Otherwise, I'll leave because another team will do this for me.
I don't think he realizes the power he has.
Oh, it's
or
crazy.
Maybe he realizes it and he doesn't want to enact it because he has that power to make these decisions.
He's an
because
alien.
he's the best player in the world.
He's an alien. Watching him play hockey is a genuine joy.
I wonder, though, guys, if part of it, if there was a reluctance, and again, we're speculating here, so you don't know. If there was a reluctance where he did pull a move like that, it gets out, the move doesn't work out, and he looks like shit.
Nah,
I mean, like, you look at LeBron. LeBron is not taking it for Russell Westbrook. People are
That
like,
was his
Russell,
call.
what's wrong with you? And that was LeBron's
that was
call.
LeBron's call, and McDavid needs that attitude where I don't care. Like I'm going to make these decisions because I think that's what's going to lead me to a championship.
You hear the stress in our voices, right? Like this isn't criticism of McDavid or the Oilers. It's like, I don't know. I'm getting to the point where like, yeah, for the good of the sport, he's got to win, man. And like, he's got to be contending.
Mhm.
And I know last year they went to the Final Four and everything, but this bullshit of barely holding on to a playoff spot,
No.
most seasons, it's no good. And who knows? Maybe they barely scrape in and then they go on a long run and this is the year that they win.
Right.
I don't know.
Right now, this discussion here, we're writing the Hockey Hall of Fame is what we're trying to do. We're trying to, hey, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when we look back on this era, we need McDavid to have a couple rings. We need his name to be written on the Stanley Cup when people go look at the Hockey Hall of Fame. He was the best player in the game, and it's going to be a shame if somehow he doesn't get there.
It would be a shame if he didn't win it in Toronto. Too.
There's another, well, that's
I'm telling you.
There's
I
a
mean
number
that.
of guys, like, I'm sure I'm going to get chastised for this, but there are a number of guys on that, like, late 2000s Red Wings team who they have statistically great careers. I don't know about elite, but because they won, no question you put
Chris
them in.
Osgood.
Pavel Datsyuk.
Not a Hall of Famer.
Pavel Datsyuk?
Pavel Datsyuk. Well, no, you have to put in.
Oh, yeah.
Had they not won,
No.
though, I think he's a guy where you might
Steve,
go.
Pavel Datsyuk? He was leading the league in scoring.
No, he wasn't.
He what? Well, Zetterberg, I guess, but
Well, Zetterberg's another one.